I'm Olivia Patchell, the Family and Consumer Science Extension Agent for Currituck and Camden counties. And I am here today with live from Currituck Extension to show you guys about dehydration. And we're going to make fruit leathers today, so dehydrated fruit leathers. But before I get started, I just wanted to remind you, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you'll ring the bell, you'll get notifications when we go live or upload content. And if you like this content, if you'll like or hit that like button, we will greatly appreciate it. Also, there is an evaluation and several links for today's class in the description or in the comments. If you have questions, we are going to touch on just a small portion of dehydrating. You can type them in the chat box if you're on YouTube, or leave them in the comments section on Facebook. We'll be more than happy to answer those the best that I can. If you're watching this as a recording, my contact information is on our webpage, and that link is in the description. You can contact me about dehydrating, and if you want some more information or if there's something that I didn't touch on, please reach out. I'd love to help you with your dehydrating needs. All right, so for today's class, I am going to talk about two different types of dehydration. But first, let's discuss what dehydration is. So there are 6 factors that go into or inhibit or increase the growth of bacteria and spoilage organisms. And we use the acronym FAT-TOM to help us remember that. So the F is for food or a host, something that the pathogen or spoilage organism can eat. Then A is for air, A is for acidity, and then the T is for time. The other T and the T in Tom is for temperature. The O is for oxygen, and the M is for moisture. So that way we can kind of keep in our minds what we need to keep under control to make sure that we are inhibiting the growth of spoilage organisms and pathogens that can cause us to be sick. So we're actually going to deal with the water or moisture content in food that's going to help us inhibit the growth of those spoilage organisms with the dehydrating process. Dehydrating is not an exact science because there's a lot that goes into it, especially environmental factors. So the process that you decide to choose, whether you do with an actual dehydrator, whether you use an oven, whether you are using solar dehydration or using the sun. So those are just a few of the types of dehydration, and those are going to go into how long dehydration for each product is going to take. Also, the moisture content of the food that you choose is going to dictate the time that it's going to take to dehydrate. And one that's very hard to control is going to be the temperature in the room and the humidity in the room. So we don't always know that based on where you're located, based on whether you're doing this indoors or if you're using a solar method or an outdoor method. That is going to dictate the time that it takes to dry something. So just keeping those in mind, I'm going to give you some ranges. But it's more like you have to just kind of check and see. And it takes some time to know when things are dry and when things are not quite there yet. So you just have to play with that and let yourself kind of fail with it for a little while. So the very first thing I want to talk about is picking your produce. So we do want to pick maybe a little overripe produce for this particular process. I want to make sure that it is free of any type of of mold or spoilage. We want to try to pick the best produce we can. If we are using a hard piece of produce, we can get rid of those skins and seeds, and then we'll need to process that either with steam or some other method before we're ready to get it into the blender or food processor to puree it for the fruit leathers. You can also, with this, choose canned fruit, and that will cut down on costs, especially if you're not growing or purchasing out of season. And you can actually use baby food as well, as long as it's tapioca free. Both of those are an option, and you don't have to process those. You can go ahead and get right into the dehydrating process. With doing your recipes, most all recipes are going to be some sort of ratio of 2 cups of puree to 2 tablespoons of some type of sugar, and you can use honey, corn syrup, or just regular granulated sugar. I have had the best luck with honey. So today I'm doing raspberry and honey puree that I put in the dehydrator. I actually did it last night because if I turned this on while y'all were watching me, you would not be able to hear me because it does have a fan. So I did this in the blender. However, if you do not like the seeds, because you'll know raspberries have small seeds in them after you take the pit out, you can put them through some sort of strainer or even a food mill to get them ready for becoming fruit leathers. So now that we've got our product ready, I'll show you here. I have already prepared our, this is actually just 1 cup of raspberry puree with 1 tablespoon of honey. And I went ahead and poured 2 cups in here and dehydrated them yesterday. And then I'm going to just go ahead and do 1 more today. So there are a couple of different ways to dehydrate, and I mentioned those earlier, but I'm really going to go into the 2. For your dehydrator, it's best to check your manufacturer's recommendations. And for the oven, if you're going to use that, you'll need an oven thermometer because you want to make sure that your oven can withhold that or keep at that low temperature of 140 to 145 degrees. And that can be hard. A lot of oven settings the lowest setting on an oven is usually 170 degrees. You're going to want to crack the door open of your oven about 6 inches and then turn your fan on. So I have my fan here to keep the air circulating. You really want to make sure that the air circulates so that the heat moves around, and you want to push some of that warmer air out so that you don't get your fruit leathers too hot. If your fruit leathers are too hot on the end, it can scorch. And in the beginning of the processing, if your fruit leathers if the temperature is too hot for your fruit leathers, then it will create a hard top and the inside won't dry. So that can definitely create spoilage, and we want to make sure that we avoid that. And the air circulation helps with that. You want to just check on them periodically. For oven, every 1 to 2 hours, you're going to want to rotate your pans and maybe switch them rack wise. With the dehydrator, I just like to check at minimum at 4 hours just to see where we are. And you need to check your manufacturer's recommendations. Each dehydrator is a little bit different, has different settings, and just make sure that that's what your manufacturer recommends. I check mine at 4 hours and then check it periodically after that. And I'll tell you what we're checking for a little bit later. So I don't ever mess with the dehydrator. I just keep it running. So that's going to be the drying processes that we're going to look at. And I'm going to open up my dehydrator and pull out my pan, and we'll go ahead and put our stuff on our pan. So here is the tray for a dehydrator. Of course, if you have a square dehydrator, it won't have the hole in it. It'll be square. If you use the oven, you can use a baking sheet. You just want to make sure that you put down a wax paper or a seal pat or something so that it won't stick to that. Sometimes they recommend using some sort of spray and spraying the pans and the trays. I have never sprayed the trays, and I tend to just peel them off just fine. But if you're worried about it, definitely spray those trays. What we're going to do now is just pour our product onto the tray. We want to be as uniform as possible, and the layering should be a 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch, or 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch thick. These little trays hold about 1 cup, and then a 12 by 17 inch baking pan is going to hold about 2 cups. And I just try to shake it a little bit to get it nice and even. I'll show you my other one where I didn't shake it as well and it didn't come out as even. with these pans here around the edges, a lot of times will dry faster than the inside. So the edges will get a little brittle, and that's why we want to try to keep this as level as possible. All right, I'm just going to set this in here for now. And I am going to magically show you a done fruit leather. Here is our nicely dehydrated fruit leather that I cracked already. So this fruit leather here, you see if you look at it, that, whoops, I don't know how to use backwards. Over here, you can kind of see through this side a little bit. So anywhere that it's thinner, it's going to dry and then crack in those spaces. So this is now cooled, and it is going to be much harder to remove and manipulate than if you take it off when it's warm. And to decide if it's done before you remove it from the pan, you're going to want to press into the fruit leather. It will be tacky or a little bit sticky, but it shouldn't come off on your finger, and then you should not leave a print in the fruit leather when you press on it. And it should just pop right out of your tray. If it doesn't pop right out of your tray, then it's probably not done. So again, it's a little bit harder to manipulate when it is cool, but you can. And I just go around the edges, kind of bend the tray, and this will pop right out, and we'll pull that out. Another thing too is if you feel like it's cool and it won't come out, you can heat it up and it will be a little bit easier to maneuver. So we've pulled this out of our tray now, and we're ready to kind of go into the how are we going to keep it safe, where we're going to store it process. With these, I go ahead and cut them into kind of like pie shapes. So you can use a knife or a pizza cutter, cut these into nice little pie shapes. And you'll notice, maybe you won't notice, let me do these out, you can see. You can see the seeds are in the fruit leathers already. And if your family's not going to like that, you might want to get rid of them, or maybe choose a fruit that does not have the little seeds that you have to deal with. Our family favorite is the strawberry applesauce and the blueberry applesauce, and you don't have a lot of seeds to deal with there. All right, so we'll go ahead and cut around the whole pan. And I do these pie shapes. Now, you can do any shape you want, and a lot of people do strips or squares. And we're ready to roll. So to make the fruit roll up, I'm going to show you one I did earlier. You'll need a little piece of wax paper, and it's really good while they're warm, and then they'll stay more circular. So if you do need to heat these up, heat these right back on up. You'll take this wax paper, place it behind, and what this does is keep it from sticking to itself, and it makes it a little bit easier to get out just at like a quick pull for just a serving size. And then we're just going to roll them up. And you'll do this for all of your fruit leathers that you pull out of your dehydrator or your oven, and then you'll place them in a container or a Ziploc bag. If they're still warm, you want to let them cool before you put the lid or seal the bag, because you don't want to create more moisture in the environment that you're storing them in, and that could, in the long run, inhibit or make more growth, allow for more growth of spoilage bacteria. Once this has cooled, then you can take your airtight container, putting the lid on it, and sealing it up, or sealing up your Ziploc bag, and place it on the counter or in the pantry, on the shelf, or whatever, for up to 2 months usually, and in the refrigerator for several months, and in the freezer it will stay good at least 1 year. So, oh gosh, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to tell you about how awesome these are. Cool. So what my family typically does is we have made these strawberry applesauce fruit leathers and put them in the refrigerator to keep them for longer, but they are a delicious cool snack on a hot day. They're great to take to the beach, and they're really easy to do with the whole family. So the dehydration process with the dehydrator is very family friendly. After you go through the blending process, pouring it out, smoothing it out, kind of shaking the trays, all that's really fun with kids. The oven process is a little bit more dangerous, and I get nervous just because the oven's on and it's hot and open. So that's just a reminder of safety there, that you just need to watch the oven, especially since the door is open. So that's all I have for you guys today. The link for the recipe that I use and several other recipes, along with my favorite blueberry applesauce recipe, is in the description. I have a couple of other resources as well that will help you get started on your drying journey. If you have any other questions, make sure that you chat them in the chat box if you're watching live, or if you're watching later, let me know, or you can contact me with my contact information on our website. I would love to help you guys with any of your food preservation questions. We are doing a food preservation series right now, every Friday at noon. If you check our website, you can sign up for the virtual food preservation series. This Friday, we're doing pickles. Next, we'll do salsa, and then we'll do pressure canning. We had last week jam. So if you retroactively would like to view the live jam class, we would be more than happy to get you that information. So definitely reach out to us, check out our website and our Eventbrite page for upcoming events. So again, don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel, click the bell to get notifications, and if you like our content, definitely give us that thumbs up. If you're watching this recording, just remember, if you have any questions, I am here for you. You can contact me at the CareerTech Extension office. And don't forget to join in to, not tomorrow, but Friday, as we have changed our schedule. Sherry Fischel-Swiger, the 4-H program, the 4-H Extension agent, will be doing preparedness, disaster preparedness with youth. She has a great curriculum for how to prepare for hurricane season, as hurricane season has already started and we've had a couple of named storms already. So hopefully you guys will join in on Friday. You're not going to want to miss it. Thank you.